Okay, so I know a lot of people who are coming into this video probably expect me to be roasting Hunter or something like that, but that's not what this video is. I've been wanting to make this video ever since Hunter made his Furries It's Time to Stop video, where he rants about the complete lunacy of the furry fandom, and the only limitation from holding me back from doing so has been finals week. Now that that's over, I can get to addressing this video and finally make more content again. I do want to preface this video by saying that I'm actually a fan of Hunter, and I believe he's very good at what he does. For the most part, he's informative, to the point, funny, and overall entertaining to watch. However, I believe this video he made was a very, well, let's say bizarre one. Originally at the time, I was in agreement with part of the video, while the rest I wasn't, but after rewatching and analyzing the video, I've come to the conclusion this was a bad video. So I believe it's my job to make a response. Hunter, I'm an analyst and critic at heart, and I'm going to do all I can to show you what you got wrong in this video, and how you could improve for the future. That's at least what I hope to do. I've been studying the furry community for a while now, over 2 years, and a lot of different things have come to me as I've researched and explored. I've done things such as visit many different websites and groups to experience activity firsthand, both online and offline, researching history and different bits of trivia, and personally being part of the community in different forms such as writing and art. So I'll be using what resources I have to help me out with this video. For the sake of condensing any history-based information down into an easy-to-access place, I recommend watching Down the Rabbit Hole's video on furries, as he does a good job on giving a history lesson on the furry fandom. Link will be in the description. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. This analysis will be going over the majority of his video beat for beat, except for the very beginning. Originally, I was going to include the skit he uses prior to the actual video, but since it's mostly just a satirical approach and doesn't actually provide any argument, I'm going to skip ahead. Oh, and if you'd like to follow along with me, I'll be providing timestamps for where I am in the video so you can better have context behind what I'm referring to, apart from just showing clips on screen.
Hello everyone, it's Hunter Avallone here, and welcome to another episode of Why Does This Exist? The show where I get on my knees, cusp my ever-aching hands together, and ask God, why? Furries, what are they, and why hasn't the world ended in 2012 like it was supposed to?
Okay, I know this was supposed to be a joke, but for some reason, the fact of how long this part of the intro went on for, as well as his entire skit, in comparison to his other videos, is just a little distracting.
In short, furries are defined as an enthusiast for animal characters with human characteristics. In particular, a person who dresses up in costume as such a character or uses one as an avatar online.
Well, you did get the base definition down. However, I wouldn't rely on the dictionary definition to describe a community. After all, as even you say yourself,
And that's really the more politically correct way of saying it.
or maybe I was wrong. I assumed you were going to say something like the easier way to say it, or the less offensive way to say it. I find it odd how you wanted to make this video because you wanted to do stuff besides politics, yet you bring in the fact about it being political somehow. But whatever, I'm nitpicking here.
In my own words, furries are what happens when a fandom gets rabies.
Oh boy, Hunter, I hope you know how fandoms work, because I'm starting to think you really don't. You'll see what I mean later, don't worry, he doesn't just leave this as a one-off thing.
When a person has no strong male figure in their life besides the family dog, growing social anxiety, and a splash of Down syndrome, you get a furry.
I know this was yet another joke, but I'm going to ask in all seriousness here, why do you assume these things? I'm pretty sure you did try to explain it later in your video, but I don't think you're entirely right here. I don't necessarily believe being a furry is caused specifically because of one or more of these things. Correlation does not equal causation, Hunter. As a political YouTuber who talks about facts, you should know this. What I'm trying to get at is that just because people act certain ways doesn't automatically mean you should label them and jump to conclusions, especially with the fact of characters and personas. I'll get to that later too.
Furries oftentimes dress up as these animal characters. They look like this. They come in all kinds of colors, styles, and sizes. And believe it or not, they don't only wear these expensive suits ranging from $2,000 to $8,000 to conventions or something. No, they look like this while doing normal day-to-day activities at times. Just some minimum wage McDonald's worker looks up from the cash register and boom, Chucky fucking Cheese standing in front of him.
Alright, so there's a lot to break down here. First, let's start with your statement that furries often dress up as these animal characters. You see, this was something I found an immediate flaw in regarding your research. It's actually a surprisingly small amount of furries that own fursuits. In a 2011 survey done by Furscience of over 2,000 people in 41 different countries, 1,761 of which were furries, only about 10 to 15% of furries actually own a fursuit, with additionally only about 25% of furries owning a partial fursuit, or that of which is only bits and pieces of a fursuit like the head and hands. If you were referencing something like the 2017 Anthrocon summary poll, you would be right in saying that there were many people who owned a fursuit, at 45.1%. However, what you fail to miss is that this poll did not account for who was actually at the convention in fursuit, and it was also of only the participants there and not of a larger and broader survey. I'll link both surveys in the description. You are right in saying they dress up, as just below the original Furscience poll, it states that while most furries do not own a fursuit, most furries do own wearable indicators of their furry identity. The most popular accoutrements were tails, though it's worth noting that even then, fewer than half of furries own one. What I'm basically trying to get at here is that it's actually very rare, according to statistics, for furries to own a fursuit. And in this context, because all of your examples were full fursuits, you are even further incorrect. In fact, if you want proof that furries with suits are rare to come by, here are some of the pre-registration line photos at MFF, which at the time of recording the script is actually still taking place. Wow, look at all those suitors. There's so many of them. I'm so overwhelmed by the neon colors. Continuing on, the other thing to address was the aspect of people suiting in public. I want to make it very clear about this here. Those are the minority type of people. What do I mean by that? Well, basically these are rare instances as well. Many furries with full fursuits are not comfortable going into random places with their expensive suit of important value, as most prefer to stay around other furries in order to not feel alienated. There are instances where people will go into, say, a McDonald's and fursuit and cause a problem. But there's also many instances where they go to places where they're asked to be at, or they're allowed to be at. Have you ever seen any charity events, Hunter? Have you ever seen any, fursuit parades? Have you ever seen instances besides the cringy videos you find on YouTube of small individuals in questionable situations? Correlation does not equal causation. Let me ask you this. If you had just bought a really nice car that you've been saving up your money for and it really speaks to you, would you, for any good reason, want to bring it around places or people that you know there's a higher than normal possibility of it getting damaged?
The concept of furries originated as early as 1980, when a character drawing from a comic book, Albedo Anthropomorphic, led to a discussion group that met at science fiction and comic conventions. By 1983, the term furry had become quite standard, and by the 90s, it was the common term.
You are partially correct here. What you're referencing here is discussion about the character Irma Felna from Albedo Anthropomorphic, written by artist and author Steve Galacci. However, what you're missing is a large chunk of history that came before this. To put it simply, the original interest for furry content, or what was originally called funny animals, dates back to the 1940s with Walt Disney Animations and comic productions, or even as far back as the late 1800s with cartoonish animals depicted in funny scenarios for newspapers and such. And as such, they were called the funny animal style. One of the most popular comics that most likely sparked interest in funny animals was not Steve Galacci's book. It was actually a comic called Fritz the Cat. This in a way also sparked the creation of an independent newspaper project called Voodoo, which allowed artists to create what they called irresponsible silliness, and specifically targeted the funny animal artist group. The furry fandom didn't originate from some guy at a sci-fi convention selling comic books. There was a lot more behind it that either you didn't know because you didn't research enough, or you kept out of the video intentionally. For all the viewers here, I implore you to watch Down the Rabbit Hole's video on this topic as he goes further in depth on the history of furries. The reason I'm bringing this up is because you're summarizing this topic too quickly for something that has more depth and history than you give it credit. You cannot give part of the information and leave out everything else. It makes you look biased. And I'm also bringing this up because of a statement you make later. Ooh, look, 3 times I have to come back to something I said earlier in the video. What a surprise.
The original conference, help me.
If you think it sounds stupid, you should come up with a catchier title that would have worked for the time. This was the first ever conference to discuss this kind of stuff. Why would anyone on Earth make a bizarre and complicated title that would not be easy to remember in favor of conference? That's, like, easy to remember. Why would you ever want to make something complicated when you're starting off?
The original conference, help me, appeared in 1989 when Rod Stansfield and his partner Mark Merlino organized an experimental conference for furries. Only 65 people showed up because life was still good back then, but this spurred the fandom on, resulting in later larger conferences such as Anthrocon, which is now a yearly event held in Pittsburgh.
Now, you've started getting info somewhat right here again. I will say, though, that I feel you're summarizing things too quickly again. There was a lot more that happened between then and now. But whatever, we totally don't need that whatsoever. Not like it would be nice to know what happened that caused the spur of hatred in furry culture. No, just blow it over like there was never any controversy in the past. Burn furs? What's that? Seriously, Hunter, if you're going to give me a history lesson, at least provide information and not gloss over details.
Just last summer, Anthrocon drew over 8,000 people and over 2,000 people in costumes, because life is meaningless.
You know, I'm beginning to believe you have no concept of how fandoms express themselves. Do you believe it's odd that people flock to sports events in the thousands and watch and cheer as people compete against each other? I know I'm comparing competition events to conventions, but hear me out here. Say I had never heard of football, or any sport before. Then one day I see tons of people flocking to some stadium in a variety of colors and outfits, wearing and displaying paraphernalia of what they enjoy. Would I find it weird? To follow up, is it weird for them to be cheering, screaming, or crying, showing emotion, or whatever over what they're experiencing? I don't know. I'm not a sports fan. It's just some event. They're all weird. They should stop doing this and be normal people and stop displaying all this weird crap that just looks cringy. You see what I'm talking about? Fan groups are everywhere, and to say that one, in this case the furry fandom, is bad for the topic it focuses on, you're making it sound like the others could be just as bad, or are immune from this criticism because at least we aren't them.
So furries are a crazy, obsessive, over-the-top fandom inspired by a comic book.
Again, furries were not inspired by a comic book. There's a lot of history. A lot of history. And I seriously think you just wanted to make this video to bash on furries rather than actually address any problems. You take small examples, mislabel people, under-research or restrict giving information to your audience, and consistently mock people for expression. If you just wanted to say, I hate furries, go ahead and say it. But don't make it sound like you're trying to give your audience any actual truth when you have clearly messed up many of your facts. Do you fact-check your scripts, Hunter? Please, stick to political videos. Or at least get someone's different opinion on these topics. You need a proofreader or an editor or something. This is just embarrassing.
Now, fandoms in and of itself are retarded. Being fixated on any one thing or person to the point that your entire world revolves around your obsession is never good and hardly healthy.
Did you just call fandoms an obsession? Hold on, I need to play that back.
Being fixated on any one thing or person to the point that your entire world revolves around your obsession is never good and hardly healthy.
Okay, let's say I agree with you on this one. Yes, being obsessed with one thing and making your entire world revolve around it is a very bad thing. But let me ask you something. Using your logic, Hunter, have you ever been a fan of anything? If you answered yes, well, then you're obsessed! You really like this thing and want to show your appreciation over it? You've lost control of your life and need to grow up. After all, isn't the word fan just short for fanatic? Seriously, Hunter, you don't understand how fandoms work. At least, not in the way that you've been saying it this entire time. Since you like to use dictionary definitions, I might as well do the same too. However, rather than use the Webster definition, I'll be using the Urban Dictionary version. Both because A, I want to use the version that is as close to reality and social acceptance as possible. And B, why look up actual facts when we can just skim details, right, Hunter? Fandom. Now, a fandom is a group or community of people who like a game, book, or specific topic. Usually on social media, a fandom is not an uncommon sight. Most people have gone into a fandom, and there is most likely a chance a person will go into a fandom and leave one once in their life. Fandoms can be good or bad, depending on the age of the people, the smarts of the people, and the amount of cringe of people. Emojis and cringe, etc. can ruin a fragile fandom, not to mention horny artists who have the urge to make porn. At least the art is good. To put it simply, fandoms are fan groups. And as such, all fan groups have bad apples. People who do weird things, people who will make complete fools of themselves, and people who think Rule 34 is a requirement to exist. But the point I'm making is that, again, correlation does not equal causation. How many times do I have to beat you over the head with this until you understand? Let me ask you this. Are you the same as a feminist YouTuber because you both make videos and are passionate about politics? No, not at all. Are you the same as a juggalo because you like music? I highly doubt. So does that mean all furries are the same? By use of logical reasoning, no, they aren't. That's what I'm trying to say. If you're going to say something about someone, make sure it makes sense or is at least true in some way.
Now yes, it's a free country, so if someone wants to dress up as Barney the Purple Dinosaur and go to some awkward convention, they are by all means allowed to do so. Although the furry community is often misunderstood in the sense that it's not all about sex and it's not only a sexual fetish, I think it's totally understood that the furry community is total cringe.
I decided not to really comment on anything up to this point because there was not really anything to argue. But a little thing to note here, please make sure you watch your wording. It just sounded a little bit strange in this part near the end. I don't know. Continue.
Again, they are allowed to do what they want, but when you see these conventions, when you see these people, you just have to wonder, has evolution failed us? But when you see these conventions, when you see these people, you just have to wonder, has evolution failed us?
Okay, I can only use that example so much before it gets annoying. So instead, here's something else.
But when you see these conventions, when you see these people, you just have to wonder, has evolution failed us? Vice made a video last year titled, "The Truth About Furries. Fandom, Not Fetish."
I'm not even going to touch on that video. It speaks for itself. Vice did a really bad job with that video, especially with the specific individuals it focuses on. There was actually a very well done documentary recently released by Lisa Ling on her This Is Life series, where she talks about furries and goes into their in-depth life. And might I say, holy shit, was that video amazing. And you know what? For the Vice video, since that was the one that you saw and you didn't see the new one because I think this video came out before that one, the documentary, came out. But you can just go into your comment section yourself and you can see that they all agree that the Vice video is, ugh. Speaking of which, you might want to go and take their feedback into consideration.
As if a fandom is much better. I mean, hey, at least a fetish gives us an explanation as to why you're walking around dressed up like a giant animal.
Oh, were you expecting me to say something? Sorry, I was just thinking about this clip.
Although the furry community is often misunderstood in the sense that it's not all about sex and it's not only a sexual fetish, Although the video was filled with people who actually looked like furries without their costumes on, it became obvious throughout that my original point was correct. Furries are a result of extreme social anxiety.
I'm going to skip over the segment showing footage because if I included it here, it would take up unnecessary time. I'm here to address Hunter's point, not someone else's content. Except for this one scene.
I've had 2 separate incidents where people have hit me in suit, and like non-furries, and I don't want to deal with that again. I had a cheerleader at a parade beat me over the head with a stick.
Animal cruelty is not a joke, Jim.
What the fuck was the point of that? Like, I just can't understand how that joke is supposed to be funny. It just sounds like you're mocking him for trying to make light of his own bad situations. Like you wanted him to get hit or something. I don't know.
I wish I was a cat. Got an itchy nose, hold on.
For once, I think I am at a complete and total loss for words. Where do you even begin when the cringe level reaches over 9,000? Reincarnation is total BS, and why would you want to have a lifespan of 2 to 16 years and poop in a litter box?
I was actually planning on making a comment on this, but I realized that he was addressing specifically the Therian aspect of this, and not the cat noise / action she made. So I guess this pause was kind of pointless then.
Now, if furries aren't running around like something out of a horror movie, wishing they were animals, or sexually harassing Tony the Tiger...
Oh god, was that a mess. And also kind of funny, to be honest. Hunter, you do realize that most of that was satire, right? Right?
They are attending conventions to further discuss their AIDS. Here are some highlights from Anthrocon 2018. And just so I can get some credit, yes, I sifted through the 45-minute panel to find the juiciest cringe. Further proof that I hate myself.
So you mean you went out of your way to specifically find only the worst parts with no context of what was happening or why certain things were taking place in order to make it look like the entire panel was bad? Sounds reliable to me. See, the thing you're kind of missing here is an important fact of context behind this panel. The people you're going to either directly or indirectly mention in this video were invited up there. They were not just up there being weird or, from the context you put it into, doing cringy and horrible things to disturb the host and disrupt the panel. They were brought up there to express themselves and learn how to be more expressive. A lot of that panel was them trying to better learn how to avoid small movements and be more expressive in a costume that expressed only one emotion. They were actively encouraged to be themselves up there, and as you can see repeatedly throughout even the footage only you provided, when they act certain ways, they are actively encouraged to do it. What you fail to see is that this is a social bonding exercise. You constantly talk about social anxiety in a negative context throughout this video, and I don't mean the fact that you're saying it's a bad thing. What I'm saying is that the way you say it sounds like you're saying that people with social anxiety should be ridiculed or insulted for that problem, and in fact, you know, the problem that they are actively on stage trying to fix. You seem to have repeated moments of desiring harm upon these people, and I'm not referring to your jokes. If you want to better talk about this stuff, don't attack people for what they're doing if it's them trying to fix something that you, yourself, deem problematic. I'd add the footage here, but it's not going to really add to my point other than what I've already said, and it sort of takes up time. I'll provide a timestamp for how long this segment goes on for if you want to look at it yourself. However, there is one part that I do want to look at specifically.
After the host introduced us to these wonderful specimens, she began talking about the costumes, and it turns out she accidentally triggered one of the furries by daring to suggest he wasn't a real werewolf.
You know, big ears, big accoutrements, costumes. Shipper, it's okay. I know you're just a werewolf. That I know for you that's your identity. That's fine. Yeah, you're a werewolf. You're not a fursuit. You're a werewolf. It's okay. We're fine. He's a real werewolf. He's a real werewolf.
Real werewolf. Real.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
I decided to extend that big scene for a reason. Go back and watch it if you didn't catch it. Did you ever see or hear the werewolf respond to any of that? Or did the host decide to do that on purpose? As from what I've seen, I'd say the latter. And why? Because it's part of his character. They're all in suit and trying to express themselves. So why would they not want to say they are what they are? And I'm not referring to them as the people in the suits. I'm referring to them as the suit itself, the character, the thing covering the person on stage that is the focal point of everyone.
This is some top-notch delusion right here, and honestly, it's laughable that this poor woman was forced to play along like validating a spoiled child.
I want to make something clear here that you seem to miss. I don't personally know who's under that suit, but if I had to guess, it's probably some guy who's dressed as his fursona. Emphasis on the suffix sona, as in similar to the word persona. Why does that matter? Well, I want to kind of show you something, Hunter. If this person wasn't, as you claimed, believing they were a real werewolf, they probably were playing a character. As when these people get in these suits, they oftentimes act as their personas. After all, the suits represent their sonas, so when they put them on, they feel as if they are that character. It's like taking on an internet persona. You know it's not real, and yet you can't help but have fun doing it. Sonas can help better distinguish fact from fiction when it comes to characters. Angry Video Game Nerd, Plinkett Reviews, Cat Icarus, ProZD, Game Grumps, and many more YouTube creators are all examples of people with exaggerated personas, myself included. Many comedians play off this concept to work with it into their comedy scripts. Does Jeff Dunham believe he's a puppet? No, he's playing a character. In fact, several. What I'm saying is that even though what this guy is doing is wrong by taking all of the attention when it's not even his turn, he's not just doing it because that's him. That's him playing a character. And the reason he's doing it up there is because he, as his own character, was invited to go up there, allowing him to act in front of a crowd if he so pleased. And might I add, he's pretty much the only one causing the majority of disruption in all of the footage of the panel you showed. And if what you're saying is that he can't be saying these things, claiming to be a real werewolf, I don't think you know how playing a character works. You don't just break the fourth wall whenever you feel like. You've got to keep immersion. Does a magician give away his secrets to his magic tricks? No, and why would he? Would a voice actor in every line he speaks show his face to indicate that he's not actually the character he's playing? No, he wouldn't. But by your logic, if a magician claims that his magic is real, or if a voice actor says his lines as his character and doesn't break the magic, he's not playing a character, he actually believes it.
Honestly, it's really quite pathetic. I think that if we, we appear to have a visitor. It's Honest Bear, my teddy bear friend that tells you the truth no matter how much it hurts your soft little feelings. Honest Bear, what do you think about this guy claiming he's a real werewolf? If you're this delusional, you need to be in a psychiatric kennel. Even I know I'm just a stuffed animal and not a real bear, and my life is great because I live in the real world. Nincompoops like you are the reason I'm rooting for the extinction of humanity. Good one, Teddy!
Hey, Hunter. Your hypocrisy is showing. So you mean to tell me that a stuffed bear, puppeted by you, is going to tell these fursuiters that they're delusional for saying they aren't human? Kind of ironic how you can do this and say that they aren't playing a character, and that they actually believe this, and then at the same time control an inanimate object and make it come to life. You do know how playing a character works. You just have a huge bias over who gets to play as what.
Well, we've learned the history of furries, and we've seen the complete madness that they're into. So before we wrap this up, let's learn how to communicate with a furry. Turns out, besides having their own conventions, Vice videos made on them, and giant expensive suits to wear, they also have their own lingo. Because sometimes, we all need to learn how to communicate with stupid.
So you're saying culture-specific lingo should not be used because it's stupid. Well then, I guess we can say goodbye to shorthand, contractions, and alternative phrases then. Hello, my name is Trey. I am here on this day to speak to you about a digitally recorded film created by the YouTube political content creator named Hunter Avallone.
A baby fur is interested in age play and young or childlike characters. No comment, but you all know what I'm thinking.
Oh, Hunter. Dear, sweet, innocent Hunter. If you think that's bad, you're in for a treat when you learn what puppy play is. You think furries are bad? You have no idea.
Furries are another result of an increasingly stupid world. Deep-set social anxiety, daddy issues, and depression is all it takes to form cringe of this magnitude. Please give this video a like to help me afford a better fursuit, and subscribe to the channel to help me smile. Thank you everyone for watching. Peace.
Well, that was pretty much all the video had to offer. Hunter, I seriously think you need to rework how you manage this type of video in the future. It could have been handled so much better with the amount of time you had to discuss this topic. Yet, all you did was give horribly brief summaries, label and bunch people together, and make jokes without actually addressing any arguments. This video doesn't even feel like it has an argument to begin with. It just sounds like you wanted to make fun of a bizarre group of people. You sound like a bully, if anything. And for a channel based on correcting wrong information and telling only facts, this was a horribly biased video. I highly recommend you try doing this again, because it could have been done so much better. Anyways, that's all I have to say. If you have any thoughts or opinions you'd like to share, leave them in the comments, or contact me on Twitter at lucid_creator. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to Alligators Always for proofreading and fact-checking my script, and as well as providing her own take on certain parts of this video. And as always, keep smiling, keep trying, and stay creative. See you all later, if I don't die and come back in 3 months like usual. Bye!